Story 1. The library basement. I worked as a part-time janitor during my college years, and one of my shifts was in the Old Town Library. Most of the job was easy vacuuming carpets, emptying trash bins, dusting shelves. But there was one part of the building that always gave me chills: the basement archive. The basement was only accessible with a key, and almost nobody ever went down there. My boss told me to check it once a week just to make sure nothing was leaking or broken. The stairs creaked as if they hadn't been used in decades, and the lights were dim yellow bulbs that buzzed like dying flies. One rainy night, I had to go down there alone. As soon as I unlocked the door and stepped inside, I felt the heavy air close in on me. The basement smelled of old paper and mildew. Rows of metal shelves stretched deep into the dark, full of dusty books, folders, and boxers stacked taller than me. I walked slowly with my flashlight, checking for leaks. At first, everything was quiet, just the sound of water dripping from somewhere far off. But then I started hearing faint scratching noises. It sounded like something brushing against the metal shelves, soft but steady. I froze and aimed the flashlight down the aisle. Nothing. I turned, and the sound shifted behind me. It was like something or someone was moving when I wasn't looking. I tried to call out, but my throat was dry. I forced myself to keep walking, reminding myself I was alone. Then I heard it, a deep metallic clang, like a box being pushed off a shelf. My flashlight beam trembled as I pointed it in the direction of the noise. Lying in the aisle was a small black book, opened in the middle, as if someone had dropped it there. I bent down to pick it up, and that's when I heard it clearly. A whisper. Someone whispered my name. The book slipped from my hands, and I ran. I sprinted through the basement, the shelves groaning as if things were shifting around me. The whispers grew louder, echoing, calling me to come back. When I finally burst out of the basement and slammed the door shut, I realized I had never told anyone at the library my name. I quit that job a week later. The worst part: that black book showed up on my desk the day before I left, even though I had never brought it upstairs. Story 2. The night patrol a few years back. I worked overnight security at a large office complex. It was usually quiet, empty halls, locked doors, nothing but the hum of fluorescent lights. I'd make my rounds every hour, scanning my keycard at checkpoints to prove I'd been there. One stormy night, around 2 a.m., I was walking the third floor when I noticed something strange. A light was on at the far end of the hallway. Every office was supposed to be locked and dark by night, so I figured someone must have stayed late. I walked toward it, and as I got closer, I realized the light wasn't coming from a lamp. It was flickering, almost like a candle, though that made no sense in a modern office. When I reached the door, I saw it was slightly open. I pushed it wider and stepped inside. The room was empty, no desk lamp, no candle. Nothing that could have caused the glow, but the walls. The walls were covered in sticky handprints, smeared all the way from floor to ceiling, as if dozens of people had pressed their hands there. I backed out fast and radioed it in, but before I could finish speaking, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, dragging footsteps. I turned to look, and the light behind me flickered again. At the end of the hall stood a figure tall, pale, motionless. The fluorescent bulbs above flickered in sync with that strange glow, almost as if the building itself was reacting to its presence. I called out, "This is private property," but my voice cracked. The figure didn't move, but I swear I saw its head tilt slightly, like it was studying me. Then, without warning, the hallway lights went out completely. In total darkness, I heard the dragging footsteps coming closer. I fumbled with my flashlight, and when it finally turned on, the hallway was empty. No figure, no sound. I sprinted back to the security office, locked the door, and sat there until sunrise. refusing to move. The next morning, when the staff arrived, I told them what happened. They just looked at me quietly before one of the older employees said, "That's not the first time someone's seen him." I quit that job the following week.